All right, so joining us all the way from Hollywood, California, it is Daniel Jeremiah, and we're going to be talking about the best pick from every team. So, factoring in situation as well as the value down the board. Maybe they fell because of injury, but maybe like their upside high enough. And we're going to start here with the Arizona Cardinals. And I think we were actually kind of in sync on this one. I'll let you take it away here for the best pick made by Arizona.
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of look at their haul. Paris Johnson was the name that you'd heard connected with them, probably really the last few days before the draft, and so I was glad they at least get some value and get out of there. So they didn't take him there at 3. They ended up trading down, trading back up, getting him at 6. But to me, it was Michael Wilson, and we were talking about this before we went on. I just think pick 94 in a draft full of smaller receivers, you get a big physical guy who, when he's healthy, is really really gifted. But hasn't been able to stay healthy. It was just kind of a train wreck season there at Stanford for that whole bunch. So he's one I think if you're saying, okay, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we look back and go, man, I can't believe they got this player there. I think in this class amongst their group would be Michael Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely on board with that. The Senior Bowl, I feel like, has been so telling recently for a lot of these wideouts, where if they have a really good week, Terry McLaurin's kind of the one that stands out to me.
Oh yeah,
Was just unguardable down there in Mobile that week. And Michael Wilson, I think, was on a similar track. Different players, obviously, but similarly good. I'm gonna change it up because I didn't think we would be on the exact same page before we talked about it. I'm gonna go Paris Johnson Jr., factoring in the trade down that picked up the Texans' first round pick in 2024. I'm going to
yeah.
cheat a little bit, and that's what I'll go with for the Cardinals as we move on here to Atlanta. Bijan's my guy.
Okay.
But huge Texas Longhorns fan, and he is, probably the best back since Cedric Benson, maybe. It's tough to say. So even though it was a running back at 8, everyone hates the running back early in the draft, and I get it. Although I do appreciate the 5th-year option that you get, and you get them for their prime.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stick with Bijan. I think he was maybe the best player in the entire draft, and he's going to get 330 touches probably as a rookie in that offense. So I'm going to go Bijan Robinson, even with the value of running back.
Yeah, I look. He was my 3rd player in the draft, so I totally get it. And I think in a draft with so much uncertainty, to get a sure thing, which Bijan is, in my opinion. So I like that pick there. I actually went Clark Phillips from Utah, getting him at pick 113 in the 4th round. I think he's a ready-made nickel. He's got a ton of ball production coming off 6 picks last year. He's not big. He's not ultra juicy or explosive. But I've seen players with this skill set in that role have a lot of success. I was, with Des King, seeing what he did with the Chargers early on, just making plays on the ball, similar type player. I think he's a nice fit for them. So I thought getting him in the 4th round, I think he'll end up, he's a starter. Nickel's a starter, so you got a starter in the 4th round. I think he's a good pick.
Yeah, I thought you might go there. What do you think of Matthew Bergeron playing guard?
Oh, I think he can. I mean, to me, the teams were split. Some teams had him at tackle, some teams had him at guard. He's got really, really good strength and anchor. So to me, when you're looking at guards and maybe tackles moving inside the guards, the one thing that is a concern is if that's a question mark, then those guys struggle. But this guy, I think he can really drop his weight, bend his knees. So I think he'll be fine in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Baltimore Ravens up next as we're moving swiftly on. They had a very interesting draft. Everyone was kind of connecting them to either receiver or corner at 22. They end up taking Zay Flowers, which, very interesting player. Another name that I've heard that a lot of guys are split on. I think, the size profile maybe isn't for everyone, but a potential 3-level separator with pretty good hands and obviously electric speed. He was a very interesting first pick. I'm going to go Trenton Simpson at 86. I just think the value is too good there. I think he's an easy replacement for Patrick Queen, who I thought, EDC and the Ravens were going to move on from, but apparently they're trying to extend him, is a recent rumor, which is surprising to me. Patrick Queen just hasn't really been consistent enough. But I'm going to go Trenton Simpson. I just see an easy path to playing time, and I really like the player at 86.
Yeah, and I don't think his role fit him well. I had the same one, so we're on the same page there. I would have gone Trenton Simpson. To me, he was in my top 50, so they get him at 86. And having been there and worked there, they have a really good feel with linebackers. I know Patrick Queen hasn't been what they hoped he would be, obviously you make the trade with Roquan. He's been excellent, and they've got him taken care of financially going forward. But I thought Trenton Simpson had to do so many different things in that Clemson defense, and I just don't think he was totally comfortable. I like him more removed. I think when you put him inside the box, I thought he got a little bit cloudy in there. A similar concern with Patrick Queen when he came out. Like I think they're more run and hit, clear up their sight lines a little bit, get him out there in the hole, let him play that way. I think they'll get a more defined role for him there in Baltimore. I think they'll know how to use him. And in the third round, like he'll have a role for sure on sub next year. Like they'll get him in sub. They're going to be able to use him on special teams. Like he's going to be on the field. He'll be making plays, and he can really, really run. So that to me was one I thought was good value.
Yeah, I think Andrew Voorhees at 229 is also worth mentioning. Tore his
Coming off the
ACL at
ACL.
the combine,
Yeah.
right? So tough. But, I think it was especially cool to see him just do the bench and put up something ridiculous with the torn ACL.
Yeah. No, it's and I don't think people even like understand that. You realize like you get nothing from your leg. You're trying to keep that thing fully extended. You can't even bend your knee. And then going out there and banging out reps. But yeah, he was a big, strong dude. I worry about him just in terms of, some of his, ability to really drop and redirect and some of the athleticism things. He's a power guard, but that's the profile the Ravens play with.
Absolutely. Buffalo Bills up next. Another interesting offseason. Was kind of surprised to see them go Dalton Kincaid at 25, but I really like the fit as kind of that move tight end. I think he's going to be really, really good there. I'm going to go with him as my best pick, actually. I just think, and I think you might be on the same page here. You're a huge Dalton Kincaid guy. I just see, again, a team that needed more weapons and an easy path to playing time, and I think he's going to work really well with Dawson Knox, who's going to stay in line. Kincaid, big slot, playmaker, digs on the outside. I think they got better with him. Just maybe great value at 25.
Yeah, he was my 9th player. So to get him where they ended up getting him, trading up ahead of the Cowboys, which I think was a smart trade. Dallas would have taken him. So it was a good move. I think they were shocked that he got in their neighborhood. So to go up and get him, looking at some of the numbers from last year, Diggs 28.5% of the Bills' receptions since 2020 have gone to Diggs. They've been so narrowly focused as an offense on him. And now you also look at some of the red zone struggles that Josh had last year. I think Kincaid helps with both. I think he's going to have room to operate. They're going to use him as a big slot, so him and Knox will be out there together. He's going to be able to just out physical some of the slot corners he's going to go up against, and he can separate real sudden and quick. So, that was to me getting my 9th player with the 25th pick. I thought was a tremendous value, and I would even go to their next one, Osiris Torrance. I thought was a good pick at 59. Who, again, interior guys, I want them to be firm, strong, and give you a nice deep pocket. I think Osiris Torrance will do that for Josh.
Yeah, I mean, potential plug-and-play starter there. He is a big dude. Really good fit for the Billy Napier offense. I'm interested to see how it's going to fit with Buffalo's kind of more of a vertical passing attack at times. They don't really go a ton of power run unless it's with the quarterback.
But it's going to have to. They want to do more of that. They need to do more of that. And I think a lot of times people look at it and say, "Oh, who's your 4-minute back? How are you going to finish games?" A lot of times it's the guys up front that are kind of your the key in that 4-minute situation. So they've got somebody now that is a gap scheme coming downhill. That's Osiris Torrance.
Yeah, and you know what? They also got Damian Harris as well, which is pretty nice pickup for them if they want to do that.
There you go.
Think of it. Carolina Panthers. We talked about this before we started. That it's easy to just to say, hey, they didn't screw it up. They took QB1 at 1-1 after moving up Bryce Young. I'm gonna go with Chandler Zavala at 114.
Wow, we are speaking the same language,
okay.
man.
So
that's a good pick.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Bryce Young at 1-1. They didn't mess it up. And QB1, yeah, I saw the Texas Alabama game live. That was electric. And Bryce Young just hurt my feelings for basically the entire second half. Played with, I want to say, almost nothing around him. Jahmyr Gibbs played well in that game, but Bryce Young was exceptional, got minimal help, and QB1 of the future for Carolina. And you liked Zavala at 114?
Yeah, no, to me, I thought he would go maybe late 2, but I thought for sure he would go in the 3rd round, plug and play. Didn't get the combine invite, which was kind of baffling because of how good his tape was. But for him to to get him in the fourth round and to reconnect him with Aquanu, who, they go back to their college
Super
days at
fun.
NC State. So I thought that's a great little connection there. I always look at these offenses when you have the quarterback. I like when you have a young quarterback and you can pair him up with some veteran receivers, but I like having a young offensive line that can grow with the quarterback. So I think now you look at some of the pieces, that's a good offensive line they have already. And I think throwing him into the mix, they've got a chance to be together and to be together as a group for quite some time.
Where'd you have Mingo graded out?
Mingo he was right around there. I think he was like in the early 40s on my list. They took him 39. Maybe, you know what? I'm trying to remember. Maybe he might have been just outside my 50. I haven't consulted that thing in a while. I can actually pull it up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. The Ole Miss is turning into kind of a quiet receiver factory over the past,
they're all
decade.
big dudes too, man. So when I go to my wideouts, I had Mingo. He was 52. So he was 52 on my list. He was my sixth receiver. So, they took him 39. That was, I didn't think it was a huge reach by any stretch. And I think the fact that they got somebody big and physical, I think those guys were the targets for a lot of these teams just because there weren't many of them in this draft.
Yeah, I was surprised to see Cedric Tillman fall a little bit. I know injuries
I thought he
and
would
stuff.
go a little higher.
Yeah, I'm a big Cedric Tillman guy. And, happy as a Giants fan that they got Jalen Hyatt, the other Tennessee receiver, but obviously very different flavors there. Chicago Bears.
Obsessed. I mean, and talking real quick on the Giants, we'll get to them, but they were obsessed with speed this offseason. Like that was 100% their focus.
They got a lot of it. They got a lot of it. Chicago Bears coming up next. They traded down from 9 to 10, did a little pick swap with the Eagles, got a fourth-round pick out of it, selected Darnell Wright, who they probably, you'd assume, would have taken anyway at 9.
Yeah.
No, this was a really interesting one. My Texas bias really wants me to go Roshan Johnson at 115. I'm going to go Tyler Scott at 133. I just really like his addition into that offense. And not that he's a direct comparison to Darnell Mooney, but I think some similar traits there with getting deep down the field. Really haven't seen kind of the contested catch ability quite so much. But then, Darnell Mooney, who you didn't see it with at Tulane, ended up being a pretty good contested catch receiver up to this point in the NFL. I like Tyler Scott. I like what he's going to bring to the offense, add a ton more speed. And I think he's a really nice complementary option to DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was good value there too. I would go to the corner. I'll go Terrell Smith from Minnesota.
Ooh.
He was my 107th player. They got him at 165. Anytime you can get height, weight, speed corners with toughness, and you're picking in the 5th round where you got him, I thought that was good value.
Yeah, they get him an interesting group. I mean, they got a lot of size now. Tyreek Stevenson even at 56. Kyler Gordon a year ago. Could be an interesting second. Obviously, Jalen Johnson's there too, but almost don't even.
They got a lot of young players, man. They have a lot of young players, so we'll see how they develop. This is going to be, it's important that this Bears staff, which is the reputation, is a good teaching staff because they're going to have to play a lot of young guys, man.
How do you think the North shakes up this year? You have a lot of question marks.
Well, I mean, I want to see, what Detroit looks like if they can run it back. As they've added some intriguing pieces on that offense to be a little more dynamic there. And defensively, they should just keep getting better. They invested so much with young players playing last year. So they're the obvious team that's kind of on the rise. As you have the unknown with Green Bay with Jordan Love, and Minnesota it kind of seems to have reached their pinnacle. And then you've got Chicago, who has such a long way to travel. So, I mean, Detroit would be the team that I'd have my eye on at this point in time. But, I'm curious to see how they look kind of, if they're continuing to take the step forward. But they got a talented group there.
Yeah, I'd love to see Jordan Love play well in Green Bay. I feel like
it'd be fun.
One of those guys that I liked coming out of Utah State, and everyone canned the pick nearly universally. I'm like, hey, you know what? I kind of like this guy. Obviously, who knew Aaron Rodgers was going to get back to MVP form, win back-to-back. But interesting situation.
I remember the debate. I mean, it was a real debate. I mean, when I first watched him, I had him over Herbert. Then the more work I did on him, I ended up flipping it, putting Herbert over him. But obviously, we've seen what Herbert's done in this league. Like, Jordan Love's got a lot of ability. So, and hopefully for him, man, like what a cool story to just kind of patiently wait your turn, and as has been the tradition in Green Bay, get your opportunity and go.
I know you're a Chargers guy, but where do you rank Herbert in terms of quarterbacks? Does he get into that top 2 or 3 for you?
I think from a talent standpoint, yeah, he doesn't take a backseat to anybody just from a talent standpoint. I think you probably have to put him, obviously with Pat having the success he's had, and then, you've got Burrow with the success he's had. I think that Justin enters into the conversation with Josh Allen. I know Josh has had a little bit more success, but I think that's the debate. I think that's the conversation with those guys.
Cincinnati Bengals up next. I'm going to go DJ Turner as my favorite number
Okay.
60. I really like the athleticism. I thought, at times he was a lockdown corner, especially in man, and then other times felt like he was a little bit lost out there. But I like his upside, and I like where they got him at 60. And it's tough to find that kind of length and speed profile down the board like that. And yeah, he's a little bit lighter, but I'm not too concerned with it.
Yeah, I thought, I was intrigued by him. I had him in a very similar place. I can tell you exactly where I ended up having him. Let's see. DJ Turner was my 62nd player. So, I mean, what, 60?
Yep.
So that was right about where I had his value being. To me, he just got big boyed and got bodied a little bit down the field. That was my concern with him. I didn't think he played real big. But to me, I went same conference. I went Charlie Jones in the fourth. Now, how about that as the best transfer decision of the draft class, in my opinion, to
That's
go
the
from
huge
Iowa's
one.
offense to Purdue. He gets 110 catches, and I when I was doing corners in the Big Ten, I just there were so many times where I was like, God, he got beat vertically by Charlie Jones, beat by Jones, and it was like he just kept showing up in opponents' tape as I was doing other guys. So I ended up kind of moving him up through the process. I thought he was a good player.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing Spencer Petras couldn't elevate him. Think
I
about
know, man.
unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
And I know not Iowa, but Graham Mertz going down to Florida, right? What an
Uh,
interesting what an interesting team that's going to be this year.
no kidding.
Sticking in Ohio, we have the Cleveland Browns, and their first pick wasn't until 74. I think we could be on the same page here, but there were a lot of picks I liked from the Browns.
Yeah, there's some I liked in this one as I'm going through it, no doubt.
And
Who'd you go with?
I'm going to go Cedric Tillman at 74.
Yeah,
I thought he
yeah.
was a player that, if he snuck into the first round, it would have been a little bit surprising, but I could have seen the vision. Kind of like on the same
Mm.
track of Mingo going at 39 or whatever. I could have seen Cedric Tillman get into that top 40 pretty easily. And I think, same type of deal with Michael Wilson. Maybe you worry about injury a little bit. But the play strength I thought was pretty unbelievable. He's got great hands. He is consistently fighting for extra yards. I liked everything about Cedric Tillman, really. Is he ever going to be this explosive separator? That's just not really his game. But I really,
Mhm.
really like the player.
Yeah, he's a good player. I could very easily have gone in that direction. I like Cameron Mitchell. I was a little bit higher on him than where he went, the corner from Northwestern. I thought that was good value. They seem to have a thing for Northwestern corners there in
Best
Cleveland.
friends with Greg Newsome, apparently.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. So they're paired back up again. I'm actually going to go with DTR though.
I like that.
Dorian Thompson Robinson, the quarterback they got in the fifth round at UCLA. Not only, um, in my opinion, I think he's like a get you through a stretch backup where I don't know if he's ever going to be a full time starter, but if Deshaun's going to miss 2 games, 3 games, he gets out there and gives you a chance just with his athleticism and playmaking to get out there and be competitive and still win football games. And in the fifth round, I've got the added bonus of, when you're in a division with Lamar Jackson, who's now locked in there, you've got maybe the best scout team quarterback to mimic
There you
Lamar
go.
Jackson that you could ever hope for. So there's value beyond what he's going to give you on the field.
And you know what? He did get better every single year going through
Played a
UCLA. So
lot, man. Played a lot of football.
if he could just get a little bit more consistent, but that's
Yeah.
obviously you could say that about a lot of players. And if Queen had balls, she'd be king. R.I.P. Dallas Cowboys up next. NFC East rival took Mozzie Smith at 26. They had an interesting draft. Luke Schoonmaker at 58. He's like 30 years old already. Um, I'll go with the storyline here. I'll go Deuce Vaughn at 212.
Yeah, it's
He
a fun
was
one.
electric at Kansas State. Obviously, if you know anything about Deuce Vaughn, real small, 5'5". But you know what? I like the tenacity of Deuce Vaughn. He's just a guy who doesn't quit, and I think at 212, keep him with the same organization as his dad with the scout. Obviously, it goes beyond storylines, but I really like Deuce Vaughn as a player. He was a problem in the Big 12 for a while, which I guess isn't saying a whole lot. They can't tackle, but I like Deuce Vaughn at 212.
Well, I appreciate you not showing your Texas bias and leaving Overshown to me. So I'll take DeMarvion Overshown,
The
the
sweat
linebacker from
bandit.
Texas. There you go. At pick 90. And if you look at the pull up the depth chart on the Dallas Cowboys and look at their linebackers and tell me they don't have a type. Like they're all identical. They all are long. They can all run. A lot of them have background as safeties that have moved to linebackers. So they definitely have a type, and I thought he fits well with them.
Yeah, I mean, probably gonna spy a decent bit. That's where he was at
He's
Texas.
great at that.
Yeah.
That's his best. That's the best thing he does. And against Jalen Hurts, that's a valuable tool.
Definitely agree there. I can't go completely Texas and show my hand. That's next year where you have AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy and JT Sanders and Quinn Ewers.
Xavier Worthy better start catching the ball a little more consistently if we're going to
broken hand last year. Broken hand.
Okay. I haven't dug in on the background. I just know when I was watching
it was disastrous
crossover tape, I was like, good Lord, catch the ball, man.
Deep ball tracking was also not good. Very disappointing, but his 2021 was good, and when it came out that he was playing with a broken hand, I go, okay, I can forgive the drops a little bit more. But
there we go.
Yeah, he's gonna have a big year, I think, in 2023. Texas is gonna look to get a lot more vertical now that Bijan and Roshan are gone, and they really invested in receiver. Isaiah Neyor, the Wyoming transfer, might be one to watch. Didn't play last year.
Oh, nice.
For an ACL in the spring game, but in 2023, who knows? All right, enough Texas for right now. Denver Broncos. Their first pick wasn't until 63. They're obviously reaping the rewards of Russell Wilson. That's going great for them. I like Drew Sanders at 67 a lot. I thought he was in that, at least for me, that kind of first tier of linebackers. I had Drew Sanders and Jack Campbell kind of right there. I think it just depended what you were looking for. And I also really liked, Dion Henley, but obviously a different flavor, and Trenton Simpson, kind of the same deal. We talked about him. But Drew Sanders at 67, really, really like his versatility. Obviously, former 5-star from Alabama off the edge. Didn't really work out. Transfers to Arkansas. Plays a lot more Mike linebacker. And really moved around a lot and was really, really good. Tackling, bit of a concern. But just the athletic profile combined with the production and the versatility, it makes him an easy pick for me, at least, at 67.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a solid value where they got him. I could go a couple different places. I really like Marvin Mims, who they got with their first pick at 63. The wideout from Oklahoma is a good football player, good route runner. I thought, golly, he should have got more attention through the process. Every time I brought him up with teams, I couldn't find anybody that was as high on him as I was. So I was a little surprised he did not get more heat through the process. But I'll actually go to their third round pick, their third round pick, and Riley Moss, the corner from Iowa, who had a ton of ball production the year before. He looked good at the Senior Bowl, moving around. He's the unicorn. He's the white corner, which there's not a long track record of Jason Sehorns out there. But I think he can stick at corner. I don't think he's somebody you have to immediately move to safety. I'd give him a shot there at corner. I think he can play.
Speaking of that, somebody I found out about from watching Riley Moss, Cooper DeJean, the other outside corner, I think is also another unicorn, if you will. They were building a magical defense there in Iowa. Cooper DeJean might be one to watch out for in 2023 or 2024.
Duly noted. I have to go through this process when we finish the draft, where I'll usually take a couple weeks, and then it's like I have to do a brain dump of the 400 names and guys that we've just done for this draft, and I can't. The funny thing is, I'm getting ready today as we're recording this to do some programming at the network, and we're talking about the schedules and what's happening going into next year. You'll be amazed. I can't remember anybody's name. It's who is it? Oh yeah, Jamar Chase. Is that his name again? I've got so many names jammed in my head. I got to dump them all out so that I can get plugged back in with these teams.
Yeah, it is a struggle at times. I do a quiz following every draft. Haven't done it yet, where I try to name every player that got drafted. And, of course, as much as I do this for fun, I can't get to everybody in the pre-draft process. So there are guys that I've just simply never heard of. like the
Yeah.
corner the Giants took out of Old Dominion. Never heard of him. Didn't watch him. It is what it is.
Dude, I have a handful every year. There's always 4 or 5 guys that get picked that I haven't done. And I got to the point where I'm like, look, I'm watching 400 guys. In order to get those last 5 guys watched, it would mean I'd have to watch another 150 guys to be able to
Yeah.
scoop up, to be able to then. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Those guys pop off the board in the 6th round, 7th round. At that point in the draft, we're putting up a board and you're seeing a list of names, and I can cherry pick a couple here and there, so we can kind of get through it. The breathe easy moment is once we get through the 4th round, because we do every pick analysis on every pick through 4 rounds, and you just hope you can dodge any of those ghosts through those first 4 rounds. But inevitably, they're going to come.
Yeah, day 3 is where things start to get a little bit crazy. You had a dog pee
Mm-hmm.
on you this
Yeah, I
year?
did. Yeah, yeah. It smelled terrible. Like, it wasn't the wetness that was the problem. It was definitely the smell.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
so yeah, that was an interesting
So
experience.
did you,
But
did you have
honestly,
a
it gave us
backup
some
shirt,
content.
or did you just tough it
They
out?
offered they offered to go back to the hotel, which would have taken them, 20 minutes there,
Yeah.
20 minutes back. And I'm like, come on, like, this is I'm not going to be a diva here. I'll just deal with the dog urine smell.
Your Michael Jordan flu game. It's tough to
Yeah,
differentiate.
exactly. It was the big. I'm just glad it wasn't the poo game. That would have been. Then we would
That
have
would
been.
have
We
been
would
a
have got
whole
a new
lot
shirt.
worse.
We would have got a new shirt if that was the case.
The Detroit Lions, they had a very interesting draft. Jameer Gibbs at 12, Jack Campbell at 18. I don't know how I can go anyone else but Brian Branch here at 45. I really, really liked him. I kind of have, I don't want to say a fixation on some of these defensive backs, but the nickel corners and safeties, I always value probably way higher than they should be. Chargers, Nasir Adderley. I managed to get
Yeah,
some
I
Delaware
love
all
Nas. I
22.
love Nas too. I did. I loved him too.
Dax Hill, I really, really liked last year.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Branch, not quite the same athlete, but man, I felt like he plays a whole lot faster on tape, plays great downhill, always near the football. Love Brian Branch. And at 45, I really thought he was going to be a first-round pick. I know it's tough for these nickels and safeties to get into round 1, but I don't know how Brian Branch goes at 45. And I liked Quan Martin from Illinois. Goes 2 picks later. I don't think they're within 2 picks. I thought that was wild.
I'm looking up to see where I had him. So he was my 31st player. So I had him at 31. He went 45. So that's a significant value, where I had him. So plug and play. One of the things about nickels is you're going to get pulled into the run game now. So if you can't tackle, you really can't play with that guy in there anymore. So toughness is a
Doesn't miss
prerequisite of being in
tackles.
that
Just
spot.
does. I didn't
And
see
this
one.
guy is he's unbelievable as an open field tackler, and he's 2 steps ahead because of his instincts. So I thought that was a great value. I'll add one more. I'll just go with the guy who was picked ahead of him, Laporta. It was a little higher than I had Laporta, but not by much. He was in my 40s, I think, on my list. So to me, I thought he was in a tight end draft where we're just absolutely stacked. I thought this is a guy who's going to come in and be able to have a role and play right away. He'll be good to go.
Would be another guy if he maybe transferred to Purdue, for example.
Yeah.
Could have been a little bit more productive with Aiden O'Connell.
Exactly.
Sticking in the NFC North, we touched on them a little bit earlier, but it's the Green Bay Packers. I like Lucas Van Ness at 13. Luke Musgrave, I really liked at 42. I'm going to go with Tucker Kraft, though, at 78. I managed to watch I think it was the Montana State championship game from a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and Tucker Kraft was a problem in that game. Good athlete, and at 78, I think maybe he falls because the rest of the class was so stacked. But, I'll make the South Dakota State Dallas Goddard comparison and say, we've seen some pretty good tight ends out of that school. So I'll go Tucker Kraft. And I like their draft overall quite a lot.
Yeah, they got a lot of guys. They have a lot of potential starters in this one. Clifford, I wasn't a huge Clifford guy, so that one surprised me. What you're talking about in the 5th round, you're taking a flyer on a quarterback. I get it. To me, Kraft was my 56th player, so they got him at 78. I thought that was a heck of a value there. Going through the rest of their list, some intriguing names, but I'm probably just going to go right at the very top. I don't think I've done that yet, so I'll go with their first rounder with Van Ness, just because he fits their mold. They like big, rugged, physical edge players. And I think once this dude gets a chance to play outside on a full-time basis, I know he can rush inside, but I think what he does best is out there on the perimeter, and I think that strength, setting the edge in the run game, which they've always valued with those guys, he can do that in his sleep.
Yeah, I mean, get him on a runaway, he is a problem. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, other than Clifford the big red flag, I think not a bad draft class from him.
Nicely done.
And then Houston Texans had a very interesting draft. We all caught the sly smile of yours if you were watching NFL Network. Predicted C.J. Stroud at 2, and then the trade back up to 3 for Will Anderson. How confident did you feel about that? Over 20%?
No, it was one of those deals where sometimes you get stuff right out of the building and you're like, okay, I know this is happening. So, you go there. This one wasn't that. There was a lot of pieces of information that I had. And so when you're connecting the dots, I was like, wow, this makes a ton of sense. So, just knowing that they really like those two players, which I had a pretty good feel on that. And then, that Arizona wants out of 3. And if they take the court, if it comes down, if it's anytime you hear a team's down to 2 players and one of them's a quarterback, they're taking the quarterback 100%. So that's why I felt very confident they would take Stroud at 2. And then once they did that, I thought that the suitors for 3 would be limited with him off the board. So I'm like, well, Houston has all the ammunition. They have the desire. They like the player and Will Anderson. And Arizona wants out. So it was connecting a lot of dots, but confidence level, I mean, it wasn't over 50%. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think I said 20, and I'm like, that's even then kind of a
yeah.
that's a tough
That
call.
20 is probably a good number just because I thought logically it made sense. But it's still when you're sitting there on the desk and they're like, "There's a trade," and then you kind of lean forward a little bit, like, "Wait a second, who is it? Houston? Did they?" And they're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it! They actually did it."
So when you guys are on the desk, are you, getting texts or whatever saying this is the pick, this would, or are you finding out on the podium?
No, we find out. So give you a little peek behind the curtain. So I'll have my computer, which has my notes in it. And then I'll have, other, cards of information that I'm just keeping track of team needs, different things. So I have that kind of set up. And then over to my left is another computer that's mirrored. So Ben Fennel, who, helps me and does the XOs for us. And
Yeah,
he's just
Philadelphia guy?
kind of, yes, he's great. And so he's in charge of that. Well, once the team will be on the clock. We all have our phones down. Nobody has Twitter open, so we don't know who the pick is going to be. I find out who the pick is when Rich Eisen says, "All right, let's go to the commissioner." As soon as he says, "Let's go to the commissioner," we're off camera. The commissioner's on camera, and on my mirrored screen, the bio will pop up of who the pick is, and they've taken my notes. Ben takes my notes on the player, and they're like in shorthand, and those are copied into the bio. So on the bio, as I'm looking at it, it'll say CJ Stroud. It'll have some pertinent stats, maybe some other nuggets on there, and then it'll have my notes on there. So I find out who the pick is once Rich throws it to the commissioner, and that allows me. You get a buffer. You figure, the pick. We show him hugging his family, walking to the stage. It gives me, 30 seconds, 40 seconds to kind of get my thoughts together as I'm looking over my notes. Then I can analyze the pick.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be impossible to do it. Well, not impossible, but it'd be tougher.
I mean,
to do it
you can do it. It wouldn't be as clear and clean as you would like. So I think it serves both purposes. You don't have any information. You can't tip picks, but it does give you at least a count to kind of get your thought together. Okay, why'd they do this? Okay, and this is why they did this, and then they took him instead of that guy because of this. Okay, bam. Then the pick, you go.
The curtain's coming down. The illusion is over. No one's ever surprised. Who did you think was the best pick on this Texans draft class, though?
When I go through it, I'm intrigued by Tank Dell. I know he's undersized, but golly, he can run like crazy, creates so much separation. So somebody to get over the top, I think he'll have a role for that team.
Yeah, another Senior Bowl guy too. I just worry that I kind of was on the same board. Who was the Steelers small receiver out of Memphis a couple years ago?
Yeah, Austin.
Yeah, Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worry that I could be buying into the same hype.
Well, I was the same thing with my little guy from Louisville, who the Rams took.
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell. There you go. Good pull.
Yeah, that was something. Shatarius Atwell. I know the first name. Yeah, I was surprised when that happened.
Yeah,
Has he
yeah,
played for
no
them?
kidding.
I think maybe as a
He's been hurt.
touchdown. Yeah, it's.
He's been
I
hurt,
think it
and
was
that's
kind of the
kind of
book on
what.
him though, right?
There's a GM, a buddy of mine, who just rails against these little receivers. He's like, everybody wants to point to this one guy, and for every one little receiver that's made it, I can show you 20 of them who haven't. Like I know, man, I get it.
Yeah, it's brutal. Indianapolis Colts, another very interesting draft, and they draft off of athletic ability, and
Traits.
they're gonna get their guys. And I think maybe the one that doesn't quite fit the mold the most is my favorite pick of their draft, which is Josh Downs at 79. And not to say he's a bad athlete, because I don't think that's true, but I don't think
Mhm.
he's quite as elite as everyone else that you look at here. But I really like Josh Downs. I thought he was someone that could go, maybe as high as the top 40 as well. Undersized, but he's going to be a slot receiver, so I don't really have a concern with that. And I think he's going to be such a nice safety net for Anthony Richardson. Just give him the best receiver he's ever played with, really, if you look at it. I think Ricky Pearsall and Justin Shorter at Florida, it's like, they were not in the same level
Yeah.
as a receiver.
Yeah, I like that one, and he's kind of going to be that slot playing between those two trees with Pittman and Pierce. So it gives him a little something different. And yeah, he's not big, but he is explosive. You can look at his jumps. He jumped out of the gym. And to me, I would actually go with Rush, the corner from South Carolina, at 138. I thought he would be long gone by then. He's a legit mid 4.3 guy. He had a good week at the Senior Bowl. He's big, he's long, he's rangy. I liked him. I think I ended up with him over his teammate and Terrell Smith, or what's his name, Cam Smith. So I was not a Cam Smith guy. He had a zillion penalties. I just thought he struggled to not panic at the point of truth there. But I did not imagine in a million years that he would still be there where they got him at this point in the draft. So that one was a shocker to me. I had him one spot over Cam Smith. Cam Smith went 51. He went 138. I thought same team. One guy's bigger, 20 pounds heavier, longer, faster, and I thought he played the ball better. But so that one was one for me.
Yeah, I mean that's quite an argument to make. I think his GPS was like over 22 miles per
Oh
hour.
yeah, it was I think it was the fastest at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, something ridiculous, which at that size is pretty incredible. Jacksonville Jaguars. I am going to go with Yasir Abdullah at 136. I liked Antonio Johnson a lot more in 2021 than 2022. Otherwise, he might have been my pick. Yasir Abdullah, I could just see, maybe never a 3-down starter for them, but I like his ability to add versatility in the rotation. And I like their linebackers already, but he's, that hybrid edge. I think can play off the ball a little bit type guy. Really, really good athlete. I thought at 136, take a chance, and who knows what you got.
I like that one. I'll go Tank Bigsby, 3rd round, pick 88, running back from Auburn. There's all the technical stuff you can talk about when you're watching running backs. You think about vision, you think about their contact balance.
His name fits.
He is. That's who he is. He is north and south, downhill, aggressive, no nonsense runner. And I'm like, of course, his name tanked. Like it just, to me, it fit. And he's one of those guys. When you look at your notes, I wrote down like on 2 different places and 2 different games. I had written down just fun player. I'm like, this is not a scouting term, but this is this is a pretty enjoyable watch. It's like you're just enjoying a movie. Watching him was fun.
I was surprised a couple times. He surprised me with his jump cut. Quicker than I would have expected.
He's a good player, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of his. And I got some pushback. I don't know if you guys know the underdog guys, Josh Norris, Hayden Winks.
Yeah.
Hayden only likes running backs if they're a certain size, 210 plus, pretty much. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna love Tank Bigsby, and then he doesn't have enough juice apparently. So
that's funny.
Interesting. Kansas City Chiefs. Their first pick was Felix Onyedik-Uzomah from Kansas State. He was another fun player to watch. If you watched the TCU game a couple of years ago, he was dominant.
4 sacks in that game.
Yeah, and should have been 6, probably.
Yeah.
Took a couple away, which, unlucky. I'm going to go with him as my favorite. I think he's a perfect fit in their defense. You look at what Spags likes off the edge, and it is him to a T. The big, strong, I want to say, sturdy in a way. And he was someone who came to Kansas State at like 200 pounds. And I think it was
Mhm.
one of his only Division One offers, bulked up to, easily over 250, I think 260 now. And very productive. I mean, flashes a ton of athleticism as well. Really like the player a ton.
Yeah, I was a big fan of his as well. I thought, I think I had him going to the Chiefs in the previous mock draft to my last one. I thought he made sense. Like I always say, teams have a type, and if you look at Frank Clark and kind of how he plays the game, I thought there was a similar body type, similar play style, similar instincts as a rusher. So I like that one. But I want Chamari Connor as the best pick value wise for me at 119. As a nickel from Virginia Tech, can play safety, can play nickel, adding to a very young group that they have there in Kansas City. But they're obviously a good teaching staff underneath Spags, and he's just going to add into that mix. But having him and McDuffie to go along with what you saw with like Watson, who had a big pick in the Charger game last year, obviously the big kid from with North Carolina A&T, Joshua Williams. I mean, they
Was
have got
he
a
was he
lot
Fayetteville
of good young
State?
players. Oh, maybe yeah, Fayetteville State. There you go. There you go. Yep. So, but again, big, fast, young, athletic. They've got with Snead, they just have so many good young DBs.
Yeah, I definitely like what they're building. We're going to stick in the AFC West here with the Las Vegas Raiders. Tyree Wilson just kind of fell into their lap at 7. I think the big rumor, I don't know if how much you guys see it kind of behind the curtain, but the big rumor was Tyree Wilson at 2. A day or so
Mm-hmm.
before the draft. That obviously kind of went away a little bit, but he had a red flag with a foot injury is kind of what was brought out there. But falls to 7, tremendous length. You worry about the kind of the breakout age there at Texas Tech. He was a Texas A&M transfer, but at
Mm-hmm.
7, really, really, for all the reasons that Trayvon Walker went at number 1, you can look at Tyree Wilson, look at the length, look at the athlete. Not quite on the same level, but he was the 7th overall pick compared to the number 1 overall pick with a ton more production.
Yeah, no, I know there were a lot of teams that had him as the top defensive player in the draft. So he's
Mm.
long. He's one of the things interesting with him. He has more in his body than Will Anderson does, just in terms of what the upside is if these guys reach their physical potential. But Will Anderson is a little bit more of a student of pass rush. Like you talk to him, he speaks it. Like a lot of times with successful pass rushers, it's an obsession with these guys. I'm around the Joey Bosa, and you see it with all the other guys that I was around. Suggs, like these guys are obsessed with pass rush. They talk about it all the time. They study other guys, and I think the difference, with the teams that had Will over him was that okay, with Will Anderson, like he can talk it. He can tell you every type of every guy in the NFL's best move, who he studied, what he needs to get better at, how to set up, how one move leads to another. Whereas Tyree Wilson was like, look, I'm just trying to put a long arm in his chest and walk him back to the quarterback. So he's got more ground to cover in terms of learning that side of it, but in terms of what's in their body, he has more.
Yeah, I mean Michael Mayer, I think probably worth mentioning as well at 35. Probably just gonna be a
Yeah, I
real
mean,
solid player.
if I'm going to give you mine on this, I'll go all the way to their 7th round pick and go Nesta Jade Silvera, the DT from Arizona State. In the 7th round, I want guys that just can do one thing and has a trait. This guy's got some quickness as an interior disruptive player. So I thought at that point in time, take a flyer. The guy can get upfield and play a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Chargers. Ooh, this will be interesting. Went out, got Justin Herbert a weapon, potentially at 21, and Quentin
Mm-hmm.
Johnston. I'm going to go with Dion Henley as my favorite at 85. I think he's
Okay.
going to be just. And you talk about a guy that can do one thing really well. Yeah, I think Henley as that sideline to sideline guy that can run and tackle, but also feel pretty good in coverage. I think that is Henley from what I saw at Washington State, kind of like a hybrid safety linebacker almost. And at 85, again, he was kind of in that top tier linebackers for me, and I love the pick.
So again, we talk about guys having types. If you look at the Chargers,
Quentin
just go
Johnston.
back. Well, go back and not only the wide receiver, but just go with who you just said with Deion Henley. If you look at former
Yep,
safety
Oklahoma.
converted to linebacker, think about Kaiser White, Drew Tranquil, now with Henley. All former safeties, all moved to linebacker, all can run, all can cover. So they've been able to find this type of player in the 3rd, 4th round for quite some time. So that fits their type. Actually, I like Scott Matlock, the DT from Boise. I would have taken Scott Matlock in the third round. I thought he was a really, really active defensive tackle with a big frame. So I was a big fan of his 49 tackles last year. He's a good player. And again, non-combine guy, I thought was a little bit under the radar. But I thought he's one that when we look back, he'll be a rotational player for them. He'll get on the field.
Yeah, he was somebody I didn't get to. I know I saw him in your top 150 before the
Yeah.
draft, and I hadn't even seen the name, let alone watched him.
He was a little under the radar, but he's a good football player.
In the same city, LA Rams. First pick was Steve Avila at 36. And they had a real interesting draft. I'm not going to take 161 with Nick Hampton. I'll go with Zach Evans at 215. Really
Okay.
like Zach Evans' potential. There are some definite concerns with him, but when I saw him at TCU, I saw one of the most dynamic players in the country. And then transfers to Ole Miss, kind of becomes a running back by committee type scenario with Quinshawn Judkins. But I mean,
Nice.
as far as upside at 215, I think it's worth a flyer with Zach Evans, potential starting running back for them.
Yeah, I like that one. Talent, obviously going all the way back to, coming out of high school. There was a lot of buzz on him at that point in time. So many, gosh, they had one, two,
They had
three,
like
four,
15
four,
picks.
four fives. They had 3 6s and 3 7s. So I'll give you a 2-for-1 special. I won't go with Nick Hampton, my App State guy. I'm going to go Davis Allen at 175, the tight end from Clemson, who I liked on tape. Did not think he had a great Senior Bowl. Was disappointed there, but tons of contested catches. Red zone guy. He's like one of those rookies. If he gets out there and has 4 or 5 touchdowns as a rookie, it wouldn't shock me. And then Puka Nacua just needs to stay healthy. He's a great route runner. Had that one great day at the Senior Bowl, then he had to shut it down with injury. But if he can stay healthy, he fits their profile of receivers that they like. He can play all 3 spots. He's a good route runner. He's good after the catch. So that's one that's intriguing.
I like Desjuan Johnson too. I want to show him a little bit of love. Short arms. He was somebody I found early in the process. I think a big Brett Coleman guy, former NFL Network employee.
Yeah, Brett's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like Desjuan Johnson. And you know what? Getting to learn a thing or two from Aaron Donald probably not going to be the worst thing for him.
No doubt.
Moving swiftly on, Miami Dolphins. Only 4 picks. I'm going to go Devon Achane at 84.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect fit into the system. I mean, home run speed for days. I could see him with a couple long touchdowns as a rookie.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep the pace here and just go right with you on the same. That'd be the one I would choose. It's a track team that they've built there. It's funny. People talk about, oh, you want to be able to hit people with different pitches and different skills. I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with just collecting the fastest human beings in the league at every position and just hitting them with that one after another. So I like that fit.
I don't know if you've heard this. I've been toying around with a new expression. You can't teach speed. I think I might.
Yeah, you ought to copyright that thing, man.
It could be worth a fortune one day. Minnesota Vikings. First pick was Jordan.
Did you know Speed? Did you know Speed never goes in a slump? Did you know that?
Really? I don't know if I've heard that.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, it's mine. I came up with it.
All right, we might have a nice little Batman and Robin thing going here. I think Jordan Addison was their best pick at 23. Really liked him. I don't really know why he wasn't considered to be more like in that receiver one conversation. Really good route runner. Good hands, maybe not the best contested catch receiver, but I think when you get open the way he does, it's not really so much of a problem. And that was what he was constantly doing at Pitt and then at USC. And yeah, he got to play with 2 first-round pick quarterbacks, one probably better than the other. We'll see next year. But Jordan Addison, for me, perfect fit into the offense. Easy, outside starter. They can win in the slot as well. But, they have Justin Jefferson that does a lot of things. So I just... He's going to get one-on-ones. He's going to win them. He's going to be productive.
Yeah, I was texting in the run-up to the draft with Kevin O'Connell about a bunch of different players, and Jordan Addison's name came up, and it just made sense with him, with them. I mean, he was my top wide receiver, and I'm with you. At pick 23, I thought that was value. And I think if you look at Kevin and coming from the Rams and McVay and Shanahan, those guys love those interchangeable receivers. And I think he showed you at Pitt, he can be the over-the-top guy. At SC, it was a lot more underneath. and run after catch, he'll be a perfect complement to Justin Jefferson.
Ooh, here we go. New England Patriots. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go with this one. We were talking about non-combine
That's
combine
my
invites
guy.
earlier. I will go with, man, it's so tempting to just think about Keishon Boutte a couple of years ago, but I'm going to go Christian
Mm.
Gonzalez at 17. I think it's kind of a no-brainer for me. He was a top 10 player in the draft for me. I thought he was CB1. I trust him a little bit more on the boundary. I love Witherspoon. I think maybe just with the size, he might profile better as a nickel, even though I think he can stick on the boundary. I feel so good about Christian Gonzalez on the outside, though. Long, fluid mover. At 17, behind Emmanuel Forbes, I couldn't understand the fall.
Yeah, I like Witherspoon better, but I think he was my ninth player, so I did not see him getting all the way to 17 in this draft, particularly. So that's a good value pick. But you knew where I was going. I was going to go
Yeah.
with Marte Mapu from Sac State, who's again kind of that hybrid safety linebacker. Bill Belichick will know exactly what to do with him. He was my 73rd player. They took him 76. Um, he's what linebackers are right now, what you're looking for. If you think about Darius Leonard, he's not Darius Leonard, but he's that style. Long, rangy, can cover, can blitz, plays with total complete confidence. There's no, there's I said in the draft, there's no pause on his controller. He trusts his eyes and he goes. Had a pec injury that kept him out in the spring, so we didn't get a chance to get all the numbers on him. Was a non-combine invite, which I thought was very unfortunate. He deserved that spot, but he's a versatile guy, and I think when you take those types of players and put him in New England, like he'll block 2 punts next year and he'll pick off a pass or two.
Yeah, the only time I really got to see him, I saw one Sac State game live, but it was the Senior Bowl practice tape,
Mm-hmm.
and I was
He was
surprised to
awesome.
see him take on blocks the way he did. Shaq
Yeah.
Leonard's like kind of the guy that slips blocks, but
Mm-hmm.
Marte Mapu was not afraid to go and go and take him on just
Yeah, he was
head
fun, man.
on.
People lost their minds because they're like, this is the best thing about social media. So my comment that I made was this was my favorite player in the draft.
You think he's the
And
best
then
pick? I'm sure you
no,
saw
no,
that.
but then I got hit with people saying, "How can you say that? That's just the dumbest thing." I'm like, wait, what part of like favorite? Like you don't get to decide that. Like you get to have your
Your
favorite. I
favorite
get to have
color's
my
red. What
favorite.
are you, an idiot?
Yeah, this is not me saying he's the best player in the draft or he's better than that guy. He's my favorite. Like, how is that distinction? That is that difficult for you to figure that one out? But I did. It was very funny.
Yeah, Twitter is something else. The internet is something else.
Oh yeah.
I could say my favorite car is a Dodge Caravan. You can't tell me that's wrong.
No. Yeah. Yeah. No.
That might objectively be wrong, I guess. But if it's my favorite, it's my favorite.
Yeah. No kidding.
Saints up next. Got Brian Brzee at 29. A couple nice picks down the board. Nick Saldiveri was a guy that got a lot of traction. I'm going to go A.T. Perry at 195. Another
Okay.
player I really liked for similar reasons to Cedric Tillman. I think Perry's a little bit better of a route runner. I think he's kind of a technician. Tested better than I expected as well, and has size for days. At 195, I was shocked to see him available. He said he dropped because of character issues he heard. I didn't hear about any of that, so maybe you have a little bit more information on that, but I was shocked to see him available.
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me right now, but and I usually that one of the things that I've always tried to do is that even when I do know that stuff, there's other guys that come up that we've already talked about that some of them drop for those reasons, and it's like, it's not. There's no upside in
Yeah, that's true.
getting into that, so I don't do it. But I'll go with Hayner, fourth round, Fresno State. If you're going to take a flyer, day three, get a chance to get a quarterback who's who kind of there's a little something there. And I know the Brock Purdy thing is everybody's trying to find that guy. And I don't know if that's possible, that was just maybe a once in a decade type thing to find that type of a player late who fits. But this would be the candidate.
Art for days at UCLA game was something
No doubt.
special. Watch that live. Couldn't believe he kept going.
I know.
He was getting
Insane.
obliterated. My New York Giants up next. Deontay Banks at 24. John Michael Schmitz, Jalen Hyatt. I'm going to go with Eric Gray as my favorite. With all of the concerns around Saquon Barkley right now, getting a guy like Eric Gray at 172 that can catch the football as well, I think he is the perfect type of late round. I don't want to say replacement because obviously you're not replacing Saquon with Eric Gray, but at the
Yeah.
very least, a nice rotational piece. And at 172, another guy I was surprised to see available, but I thought it was a decent running back class. So it wasn't like super surprising to see him fall.
Yeah, no, good player. I'll go John Michael Schmitz at 57, center from Minnesota, who's like guys like this, wrestlers, tough, maybe not the best athlete in the world, but I've just seen this profile with a Big Ten center who's got a wrestling background. Those guys, they are start for a decade.
Yeah, I think some threw out a Creed Humphrey comparison, which I thought
He's
Creed was
not
a
that
better
athletic.
athlete. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I want to dispel those a little bit. New York Jets staying in the building. Kind of easy just to go Joe Tippmann here.
Mhm.
I'll go with the upside of Zach Kuntz at 220. Statistically, via RAS from MathBomb, Kentley Platt, the most athletic tight end of all time. His agility testing was absurd. His
Yeah.
size is ridiculous. I did get to see him at Old Dominion. Still learning how to play the position. I don't know that he moves as well as he tested, but at 220, I can understand taking a chance on one of the most athletic tight ends ever.
Yeah. No, look, the value there is excellent. I didn't love him as a player, but I thought he's an unbelievable athlete in the seventh round. That's where you go ahead and bet on the traits. I'll go with Abinaconda, the running back from Pitt, who's got big time juice. Obviously, it's a very crowded backfield there. They got tons of talent with Brees Hall, Zonovan Knight, Michael Carter. But I think again, that's a fastball you can throw in there, and he can return kicks. So I know value on kick returners has never been lower, but he gives you a guy that can do that, especially when you think of having lost Barrios. So he'll have a role on this team.
Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, where do you even start with this team? Even Moro Jomo at 249.
Good player. Yeah.
Shocked he was there. I'll go Nolan Smith at 30. If he was healthy, he probably goes a lot higher than this. His pass rush win rate was crazy. And when I turned on the tape, surprised he played as strong and powerful as he did. I thought he was going to be more of just an athlete. But
Yeah.
no, he has some power to his game as well. And at 30, I think you threw out the Hassan Reddick comparison. It's easy to see why they liked him. And all the way down the board, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I look, Ajomo, who you're talking about, he was my 111th player. They got him at 249. So I thought
Absurd.
that was value big time. But I'll go Sidney Brown at 66, a safety. He'll be a starter, and it might not be year one, but he'll have a role on teams right away, and he'll eventually settle in, and he'll be a long time starter there. Speed, toughness, instincts. Those are the three things we always focused on when I was in Baltimore. This kid's got all three.
Were you a big Keely Ringo guy?
No, but I thought where they got him, I didn't think there was any chance he would be there. He had the profile to me of a second round corner, height, weight, speed, tough. He can play the ball. He just wasn't always in phase. He's tight, and I thought that showed up at times when he went up against some of the better guys. But no, I mean, I think he's got a fallback too. I think he could fall back to safety if you needed him to.
Pittsburgh Steelers, another team who I thought killed the draft. I'll go with Darnell Washington at 93. I mean, he's an inline tight end that can block for days, and I think he has upside as a receiver as well. Really good athlete. I thought he tested better than I expected agility-wise. I didn't think he moved quite so well, but it's hard not to like him if he's healthy at 93.
Yeah, that was the reason he fell, was health related. I'm going to go actually Herbig. So they have his brother already on the team. They love doing that in Pittsburgh, pairing up brothers. But at 132, a little bit undersized, but big time production as a rusher. He can play off the ball. They'll figure out how to use him. But he's a football player. It's kind of an overused cliche, but this guy's just wherever you put him, he's going to be around the ball. He'll make something happen.
Keanu Benton and Joey Porter Jr., especially Benton, I really liked as well.
Yeah.
San Francisco 49ers, man, they did draft. I would go with. I'll go. Oh man, I will go with Robert Beal at 173. Real good athlete, rotational edge. That's the review.
There you go. That's all you need. I'll go with Darrell Luter Jr., athletic, rangy corner. They got in the fifth round. Thought he might go on maybe a round earlier. So a lot of picks on day 3 for this group, but I thought that's somebody he'll have a role. He's got starter upside. He's got those type of tools. So 5th round pick, 155, good value.
Thought you might go Jair Brown there.
He's one of my favorites, but I was trying to dig a little deeper.
Seattle Seahawks. This one, another interesting draft. I know guys that I talked to were really split on Oluwatimi. I'm
Mm.
gonna go with JSN at 20. Zach Charbonnet, I think, could have been an easy choice here as well. But JSN, plug and play starter in the slot. We know what he can do when he's healthy.
Yeah, I love that. I'll go all the way to the very top just because Witherspoon was he was one of my most enjoyable watches through this whole process. And it was my fifth player, went fifth overall. I thought his ability matched there. Um, to me, corner, when you look at toughness and instincts, the underrated aspects of it, we can get the tall, long, rangy, fluid. If you're not competitive, if you're not tough, if you're not instinctive, you're going to have a hard time being a difference maker. I thought this kid just a great player, man. He's and he did not fit the profile with them, so I did not think they
I
would
was
take him.
shocked. This
I was
was the
shocked too,
shocking pick of the draft for me.
but he's so competitive. I think they got a chance to be around him. I just fell in love with the kid.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes you can see on the All 22 him barking at opposing receivers.
Oh yeah,
That is always fun to see. Tampa Bay Bucks. Another really surprising pick for me was Kalijah Cansey at 19. I thought the Bucks could have gone in a lot of different directions. I was surprised to see them go with Cansey. My favorite pick that they made was Trey Palmer at 191.
Mm.
Speed for days, good athlete, good size. Pretty productive at Nebraska too. And at 191, I mean, come on, that's where you take a shot on a guy like that.
And that's why I'm going to go 5 picks later. Their last pick, Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan, was one of my guys. So I loved him. 12 sacks. He's not tall, but he's long and he can bend. So to me, that's a great body type as an edge rusher because he can play with leverage and length. And then he can turn the corner. And he's got sack production. So I want Jose Ramirez.
Hey, there's another undersized Jose Ramirez who's been pretty productive
Yeah, exactly.
in another sport
Cleveland.
there. Yeah, that's the one. Tennessee Titans. Peter Skoronski at 11, Will Levis at 33, Tyjae Spears at 81. That's going to be a tough situation. I'm going to go with Will Levis at 33. Everyone hates Will Levis. I don't know that he would have been a top 5 pick for me, but I like Will Levis at 33. I could see him being a starter there for a little while, or in a little while, and that's, at 33, yeah, you don't get the 5th-year option, which kind of stinks, but I could see him being a starting quarterback, and that's tough to say for a guy outside of the first round usually.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Where they got the value, I think there was definitely value there to get him in the second round. This is an interesting one. Jalen Duncan's one of those guys where there was talk about him going in the first round, second round. I was like, oh man, that coffee's too rich. I could never do that. But they got him in the 6th round, and I know his tape is very rough. But this is a big athletic guy who, Duke Manyweather, I've known forever, swears by this kid. I just thought in the 6th round, pick 186, you've got a tackle that's got a lot of athletic traits. You got something to work with there. So I thought that was a good flyer.
Yeah, really good athlete. I was a little bit disappointed when I watched him because he was getting first round buzz.
He gets beat up a lot when you watch him.
Every I don't want to say like great team because Michigan, they're up and down, but Michigan, Ohio State, it felt like anytime they played kind of a premier team, he struggled greatly. As we will end things with the Washington Commanders, Manuel Forbes at 16, Quan Martin at 47. I am going to go with KJ Henry at 137. I thought he had a pretty good season, kind of the unsung hero of that Clemson team. Miles Murphy, Brian Brzee get all the love. I thought Henry had some pretty decent games when I watched him. And at 137, is he ever going to be a superstar? Unlikely. But as a rotational edge, in round 5, I can get behind it.
Yeah, no, I liked him. I liked him a lot as a player. I'm going to actually look this up because I was curious. KJ Henry was my 77th player, and they got him at 137. So I'm with you on the value there. I'll go with Braden Daniels from Utah, who I thought was a really good player on tape. He's just a light guard. And to me, I watched him. I saw some Joe Tooney type movement and athleticism. So I just want to see him put on a little bit of weight, be a little stronger, kick inside, and he can really, really move. So outside zone stuff, you want to do that, he can do that all day long.
All right, perfect. And that is going to do it for the best pick made by every team in the 2023 NFL Draft. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure as always. And thank you for watching the video. See you guys in the next one. Take it easy.